Are they
the constitution and the vision. Yeah. Now, in our case, we have got what you call a mixed type of tradition. And that independence, we accepted that no tradition should be prevail beyond the national issues. We agreed even to adopt the language, English language as the national language, because everybody wanted theirs to be adopted. For the sake of unity, we adopted English as the national language, official language, I must say.
Yes.
Now, our vision is a practical expression of what the Constitution demands for government to do to its people. So what we are ready, this document, our vision expresses practically what the Constitution requires us to do to the Namibian people and their inspirations and so on. So of course, the Constitution overall, but then for us to show that we are living the language of our Constitution, we have to have a vision which will direct us towards prosperity for our people, which is the requirement of our Constitution.
Okay, thank you very much. So, John, there is Kati who wanted quickly to say something, and then Tom.
We're supposed to ask what's missing.
Kati might say something what's missing.
Sorry, John. It's just a thought that I want to sort of lodge in your minds as we go through the next few days, and that is that all this discussion we've had about visions and to some extent about foresight is important. However, it's all been somewhat inward-looking, even though there's the regional dimension that has been touched on. And one of the reasons that visions have to be adapted over time is because of what is happening globally. And so one always has to have at least one eye on what is going on in the rest of the world. Now, my view on why nations fail is because some are succeeding. It's not a win-win situation, as it is currently. The world system is not smart. And so one has to take account of that and try to second guess it, if you like. So, although I agree it's not just for the elite to keep hold of these visions, but nevertheless, the sort of intellectual input into this work has got to be there. And that intellectual input has got to be outward-looking as well as inward-looking. Thank you.
But can you help me? The British don't have a constitution. How have you managed it this far?
Well, I'm not sure we've managed very well.
On this note, I shall say something.
John, you want to say anything more than the time is over?
I want to add before I say that. And you've got the question, is anything missing? And one of the things, to a large degree, Gideon covered it, I think. When you have a vision, who sees what is going wrong and how is it being handled? And we've heard of Barbados, one body is pulled out. There's a reason for that. Is it because they no longer see a threat from outside? Is it because they have another agenda? What is the reason? How is it handled? The key managers managing it will always, or pretty well always, give a rosy view of what's happening. They're not going to say they're failing. In business, we have a key performance evaluation, assessment of operators throughout the system. We go and check, and we don't always do it from inside. We often get someone from outside and have a look and say, well, you think it's going well, but actually a 7-minute mile is not very good in the world standard. And how do you handle it? And that's again where CPTM can perhaps help. Obviously, organizations like the universities and the think tanks can do it. But we represent, if you like, hopefully an unbiased body. We're not trying to push CPTM to do it, but that is one issue. Conventional wisdom is often insufficient. Kathy made the point, you've got to have intellectual input. Often the tradition is hidebound or lost. It needs to step up again. So, I'd like to hand over to Ashok now, because after this we
I don't think any issue is missing. I think most of the important issues have been said. Given time, we would probably add more issues. That's not the issue, but I think what probably has not been emphasized enough, at least in my understanding, is one point that the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister made is extremely important. He said all this terminology of failing and succeeding somehow is not absolute. So that's very important, because the other, I think that's a key thing which we must remember in our discussions and dialogue. The other thing is this theory and practice.
So it's a question of seems to fail.
Seems to fail, yes,
succeed.
yes. But I think it's not a nation as such. But within nation, something succeeds, something doesn't succeed. I think
Seems to fail.
seems to again, because the peculiar feeling is that we keep discussing Africa, but we never discuss failures in UK or America or whatever for some peculiar reason. But that's,
Australia.
yeah, so that's some reason, but anyway.
Cyprus.
The other thing is theory and practice. I think Omar and Kethi both have highlighted to keep that distinction very clear. Many of us are both theoreticians and practitioners, especially for the ministers and senior people in the government. They are expected to be both. And that's very important, that we address both the dimensions there for them. To me, new insight which we probably need to concentrate more is there are two issues of news. One is foresight type, what is happening likely and so on and so forth. That's one
Foresight, yeah.
which has been mentioned, and surely it needs to be done. But the other is social contract, participation, its relationship. In other words, how to make CPTM, the key thing is networking of people and ideas, how to make it more vibrant. New ideas haven't come on that. How to make it more vibrant. So that's one issue which probably requires little more mention and commenting upon in the days to come. That's about, and I think there is very clearly institutional mechanism is required, but not at the cost of this dimension of how to make network more vibrant. It should make it more vibrant rather than suppress it, whether it's through mediation or whatever. So I think that's an issue which needs more.
Yes,
Yes.
something missing.
Something missing?
If I can follow on the point over there on mediation, it seemed really important. It reminded me of an occasion when I was doing the Mauritian vision. They set these groups up, and one of the groups was on the future of tourism, which is a very important industry there. And they got on this group, the president of the national airline, the directors of the big hotel groups, but also people like marine biologists, various environmental people. And these are sort of people who didn't normally meet very often together. And you'd think when they did meet, the discussions would probably get rather gruesome. But it wasn't a bit like that, because they were united in wanting to find a constructive way through. In the course of the discussion, the environmental people persuaded the hotel people that if they built lots and lots more hotels, which is what they were thinking of doing, it would be a disaster. It would ruin the environment, and it would ruin their own businesses. And people weren't going to come all the way to Mauritius to get an environment that all got messed up. And so they persuaded the hotel people to change their minds in the future to concentrate on value rather than on volume. And so they could all agree that this is a useful, sustainable solution that's going to be good for everyone. And sustainability was built into the reference for all the groups. was a key part which I think was very valuable altogether. But it's surprising how different sorts of people, if you bring them together with a constructive, positive agenda, they can often agree with more than you think.
Okay, on this note, do you think that we can make this balance, balance between eating fast and eating slow?
Yes.
But thanks very much for those who participated virtually. And this issue of the vision with the insight are continuing into up to Friday. So it's not that we stop here about the vision. And it's not that we ignore the quality and the financial inclusion or the technology, but we just focus more on dimensions and vision. So thank you very much. So could you, Daniel and Tom, could you explain what's happening to eat quick, fast and slow at the same time?
Yeah, just to say on lunch very quickly, there are 4 local restaurants that we'd encourage you to use. There were menus pinned on the welcome board outside, which I don't know if you had a chance to look at. If not, I think the intention is me and Daniel will